So you've probably heard the absolute golden rule of global travel, right? Japan has no tipping culture, period. Literally every guidebook says it. But I want to be totally honest with you here. While that's true on the surface, it's really not the full picture. Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating cultural puzzle together in this explainer. And we're going to uncover the invisible tipping culture of Japan that almost every visitor completely misses.
To really get into this, let's kick things off with a personal story. I was in Japan once, and I tried to tip a taxi driver. Simple enough, right? Well, it absolutely did not go as planned. But here's the fascinating part. He wasn't annoyed. He wasn't offended at all. Instead, he just gave me this genuinely puzzled, flustered look, like he was completely at a loss for what was happening. He very politely refused the extra cash and said, "Please don't worry about it." So I had to wonder, why the genuine confusion?
The driver actually followed up his polite refusal by telling me the fare was sufficient, the thought means a lot, but I'm afraid I really can't accept the money. And, when you really think about it, his reasoning makes perfect practical sense. The fare was already paid. Handing him extra cash off the meter, that could create accounting irregularities, it could complicate his tax reporting, or honestly just cause a headache for him at the end of his shift. He wasn't being stubborn, he declined because he had a very real practical reason he just couldn't take it. But here is where the mystery gets super interesting. Let's say my fare had been 980 yen. If I handed him a 1,000 yen bill and casually said, "Oh, no need for change," or "keep the change," he almost certainly would have accepted it, no problem. But call that exact same extra 20 yen a tip, and it gets immediately refused. Frame it as "keep the change," and it goes through without a hitch. This right here is our core puzzle. The physical money changing hands is exactly the same. The amount hasn't shifted by a single yen. Literally, the only thing that changes is the name we give to it. Isn't that wild? Why does the label attached to the money matter so much more than the actual cash itself?
Part 1. The hidden vocabulary of gratitude. To solve this mystery, we really need to look at the language. It turns out, Japanese actually has a surprisingly huge vocabulary for what we'd broadly call tip-like payments. Customary money given to show gratitude. You've got Kokorozuke, which translates beautifully to a heart's offering. Then there's shugi, ohinari, chingin, sunshi, and hasha. I mean, that is an incredibly rich vocabulary for a country that supposedly has absolutely zero tipping culture, right?
But, and this is a massive but, you can't just toss these words around interchangeably. Each one of those specific words belongs to a highly specific setting. There's this whole web of strict, unspoken rules about exactly who gives it, when it's supposed to be given, how much is appropriate, and, maybe most importantly, how it should be physically presented. All of these unwritten rules tie into something absolutely foundational in Japanese culture. It's a concept known as kata. Kata essentially means an established form. It's a structured, proper way of doing things that society has meticulously ironed out over centuries. So, giving gratitude money in Japan, it fits neatly and perfectly into these deeply ingrained katas. And boom, that brings us to a major realization. The English word tip, or chipu as it's adapted over there, does not fit into any of these established categories. It's totally alien. It exists completely outside of the katakoma. Think about it. If you just hand over bare cash in a cafe and call it a tip, the person behind the counter is going to be thinking, what exactly is this? Are they trying to give me a Kokorozuke? But wait, a cafe is definitely not the right setting for that. Because the money is what we can call nameless, meaning it has no recognized category. The socially safe, appropriate response is simply to politely decline it. It causes friction because, well, it breaks the form.
Part 2. The temple offering parallel.
Now, just to prove this isn't some quirky thing limited to the modern service industry, let's look at another pillar of society entirely. This kata structure is everywhere. Take afuse. This is the customary money offered to Buddhist priests. For example, if a monk visits a family's home for a memorial anniversary or a funeral, you are fully expected to present them with afuse. The form definitely exists here.
But I absolutely love this quote from our source material on this. They said, honestly, I still agonize over this, especially how much to offer. It just perfectly highlights that navigating these forms is anxiety-inducing for literally everyone. This isn't just tourists being confused. Many Japanese people feel the exact same uncertainty, because while the kata exists, the exact specifics, like the precise amount or the exact timing, are rarely written down in a manual anywhere. We can kind of compare this ambiguity to walking into a really high-end sushi restaurant and seeing jika, which means market price, on the menu instead of a hard printed number. There's this underlying aesthetic at work.
It's the feeling that something elegant and meaningful is actually lost when a transaction is stated too bluntly. It requires a bit of subtlety.
Part 3, Nameless Money.
So pulling all these clues together brings us to our big aha moment. Japan refuses the namelessness, not the money itself. Let's go back to that taxi driver. Saying keep the change goes through because it sits comfortably within an existing, understood context. You are simply settling a fare. The driver knows exactly how to process that. But a tip? A tip is a foreign concept. It's nameless money with no category, no established kata. And that right there is exactly why it gets refused.
Now, I definitely don't want you leaving this explainer thinking your gratitude isn't wanted over there. That impulse to show appreciation, it is highly, highly valued. If you want to express gratitude in Japan, you just shouldn't use the word tip. You have to channel it through an established form. So for instance, if you're staying at a traditional inn, a ryokan, and someone really goes out of their way to help you, you can offer a Kokorozuke to the attendant when you check in. Put it in a nice envelope, follow the form, and your gratitude will be seamlessly and warmly received. So let's turn the mirror around for a second. Does your own culture have customs for expressing gratitude through a highly particular form of giving? And when you really get down to it, between gratitude that follows a social structure and gratitude that's just totally impromptu, which one feels like it communicates more meaning to you? Think about that, keep exploring the cultures around you, and I'll catch you in our next explainer.
あなたの体験をぜひ聞かせてください。コメント欄に書き込んでね。